Well, the Middle East remains tense as diplomatic efforts continue, alongside heightened military tensions involving Iran, the US and Israel. Qatari mediators are holding talks with Iranian officials in efforts to preserve the Memorandum of Understanding between Iran and the United States, and they support continued negotiations. Meanwhile, Iran has renewed warnings of retaliation following recent actions involving the US and Israel. Concerns also remain over the security of the Strait of Hormuz and the wider impacts on regional stability. Now, for more on the latest situation in the Middle East, we're joined by the Asia 1 correspondent, Jagruti Dave, live from Washington, D.C. Jagruti, hello and welcome to Asia 1 News. So President Trump has agreed to new talks with Iran. At the same time, he has declared the ceasefire is over. How is the administration explaining these seemingly conflicting messages?
Well, let's look at what the president said on a Truth Social post. He wrote, "Iran has agreed to continue talks. We've agreed to do so, but the United States has stated to them in no uncertain terms that the ceasefire is over." This is similar to the remarks that he'd made over the last couple of days, where he said that the ceasefire is over, but that negotiators can continue talking, even though he's described it as a waste of seemingly mixed messages, closing the door, but also leaving it ajar. And we have one source that's telling CNN that this is a strategy of striking Iran, but then pausing to avoid escalation, but also to let the diplomatic process ensue. Now, the Americans are effectively accusing Iran of violating the Memorandum of Understanding that was struck in June by targeting ships through the Strait of Hormuz. And as a result, they have struck around 170 Iranian military targets. That's according to US Central Command. Iran has obviously retaliated, striking US bases in Gulf countries, and I think what this does, this not quite war, not quite peace situation, is that it causes a state of heightened tension in the region, where the markets are not sure what's happening, regional players are not sure what's happening, and we're not sure how the diplomatic process is going to unfold, and in fact whether strikes are going to resume or not in the near future.
And Jagruti, Trump has also said Washington has accepted Iran's request to continue negotiations. Has the White House shared any details about when or where these may take place?
Yeah, firstly, Iran has not confirmed that it has requested talks at all. We are only hearing reports in media outlets like Al Jazeera, who are saying that there are several reports saying that talks were expected, could have been on July 18th in Islamabad. But again, these are just reports. We know that, again, from reports that talks, that the last round of technical talks that concluded last week were on pause for the duration of the funeral of Iran's late supreme leader, and that they were expected to resume after that ceremony had taken place. But again, it's all very uncertain. We do not know for certain if that is a date, if those talks are going to resume, and we do know that mediators are scrambling to try to get both sides back on the table for those technical talks to resume, which the United States and the president has confirmed that they are willing to continue those talks.
And Jagruti, what reaction are we seeing in Washington from lawmakers and foreign policy officials about Trump's latest statements on Iran?
Well, this whole situation you're seeing in the United States here is obviously causing divisions along party lines, but also it's causing somewhat of a rift amongst the Republicans. Obviously, the Democrats have been overwhelmingly critical, bar a few exceptions, of the president's approach to Iran, and within the Republican Party, you obviously have those Make America Great supporters, the ones who are, for want of a better word, I suppose you could call them isolationists, those who believe that it's not America's role to get involved in foreign conflicts or to even start conflicts abroad. But you've had a lot of hawks on Iran who have been very dissatisfied with the Memorandum of Understanding and that temporary ceasefire that was implemented in June. And they believe that some of them believe that it amounts to surrender. Some of them have been very unhappy with sanctions that have been lifted from Iran. They believe that that's money in Iran's pockets that goes towards continued threats towards the United States. So you have a divergence of opinions, and I suppose the recent resumption of strikes would appease those hawks who believe that there should be a more full-throated war with Iran. Those who believe that we should return to diplomacy, that both sides should return to diplomacy, are obviously concerned about the resumption of strikes and the possibility that more could come, given that the president is saying that the ceasefire is over.
And how are the US allies in the region responding to Washington's renewed diplomatic outreach while tensions still remain incredibly high?
Yeah, I think, look, as we've been saying, mediators are scrambling to try to get both sides to the table. So clearly that is going to be a relief to the region, but also to countries around the world, to America's allies. You've had people like the UN Secretary General who are saying that the escalation of violence could be disastrous for the global economy. And that is really one of the concerns, isn't it? That we've seen traffic in the Strait of Hormuz grind almost to a near halt again, which is, and we've seen that the impact of that on oil prices that have gone up, at least in for the price of crude oil having gone up. Gas prices often track onto oil prices, and that is a concern here in the United States, at least, and in many other countries, about the rising cost of petrol at the pumps. So I think resumption of strikes is going to cause concern, and the fact that the president saying the ceasefire is over, and the fact that strikes could resume at any time, is going to keep the region in a state of heightened tension, but also the markets as well, where they don't know what the situation is. And so we're in a state of uncertainty, an already precarious situation becoming once again ever more precarious.
Jagruti, thank you so much.